You guys, this is Chris Bate with Cheat the Game coming back at you. And first off, let me apologize about all the fan noise going on at my current location. There still is no AC, and I haven't quite got moved into the apartment yet. They'll be installing internet tomorrow, actually. So once they get internet installed, then I'll move into there full time. But for right now, I have to be at the old place so I can come out with these vids. I apologize about the delay. It's been a long month of moving, and plus my job and everything. It's just hard to get time to do these things. But also, this is the month of June. This is Partner Appreciation Month, and what we're doing this month for all partners and donators, that every tut that comes out on CTG, they will be granted 3 days early access, completely ad-free. You too can also become a part of that. The join button down there, if you see, that's new. And we'll have more perks coming out later, but for right now, you too will receive early access ad-free by becoming a partner. If you join here as well, you'll be considered a partner also. So you don't necessarily have to go through Patreon or PayPal. You can do it right here through YouTube. So what we're going to be doing today, and this is an awesome lesson. This lesson is not mine, and I want to personally thank Abystus, great friend of mine, awesome game hacker. He's many levels above me, and he has great knowledge in this area and is a great guy to go to when I got questions. But he helped me, practically handheld me through the entire way on how to have your hero hit any enemies anywhere they are on the screen. Now, we're going to be using fighting games, but the same type mechanics can be used for other type games as well. Maybe a little harder to find, just depending on the game. Some games are real easy to find these spots. Other games you may be doing hours and days of backtracing, who knows. But we're going to get you started, and like I say, we're just going to do a base of it right now. This lesson is just find the location, and then later vids coming out, we're going to do it where we separate your hero out from your enemy to where your enemy cannot hit you from anywhere, things like that. Also, there are certain, like when you're up in the air, you have to modify some locations versus when you're standing on the ground or crouching, and we will take care of those also. So I'm going to do it in 2 different games, and with Abystus' permission, I want to read what he wrote me when he was telling me how to do it, and he just gave some information. So right here, I'm going to zoom in on that, and feel free to pause the screen and read this, and he's given a step-by-step on basically what you do and what to look for, and this is what I went through. And throughout the rest of our conversation, you know, he kind of handheld me through this particular game that we're going to be doing today. Also, I'm going to be doing one that he previously showed me, which is a little bit easier, but I want to show you the differences on. But what you're really going to get out of this is more in-depth on backtracing, and I want to show you a few cool couple of things here. Okay. Also, he has a YouTube channel right here, 790 subscribers. I am subscribed. I mean, he is an incredible game hacker. Come over here and sub to his channel. You will learn a lot. This is another place I come to, and he just shows off some great hacks. I believe he does have some cheat tables as well. So come on over here to Abystus' channel, and this lesson here that we're doing today is not mine. Again, I'm giving Abystus all the credit for this because this is his lesson. This is what he taught me, and he gave me permission to give it to you guys, and we want to thank him for that. So get on over here and subscribe. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring everything up, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for holding. And I went ahead and off camera and went ahead. First step in this, what you want to do is you need to find enemy health. And what I did is I just went to 4-byte value, and in this particular game it happens to be a 4-byte value, and it was a 10,000, and this is her internal health right here. So we do need enemy's health. Now it is, most games there'll be shared opcodes and everything, so you can see. So I'm bypassing that step. Plus, I need to inform you guys that this lesson is for intermediate to advanced levels, because we will be doing some back tracing, and Basically, it is trial and error. It can get very tedious, very monotonous, and frustrating. So keep that in mind too. But it does work if you're willing to put the time into it. Okay. Also, I recommend getting a fighting game like this where you can have a training area. And the training area is basically where it allows you to learn the moves and everything. So it's good practice with these. But it does work for most type games, any type games like this where you're fighting out in the open or anything like that. Not turn-based, but just open fighting. It may be a little bit more difficult to find is all. But that's basically what you're doing here is what the game is doing. It's sensing when we actually throw a hit or a kick or anything of that nature. And then it's comparing somewhere to when we actually touch our collision field to continue on to the routing opcode. So what we want to do is trick the game by throwing a punch, but making it think we did hit her collision field no matter where we're standing. Not just when we actually touch her collision field. So that's what we're looking for. So what we want to do is we want to find the routing opcode. Let me minimize that. And we're just going to find out what writes to it, because that's going to be our starting point. And this will be the enemy's health address. But like I say, most all games it's shared anyway, so it don't really matter. But we do want the enemy. And we just go ahead and find what's writing to it. Okay, we see what popped up first. That actually wrote to it when it took away health. These pop back up when it added health back. So we want it when it actually subtracts health. So if it's in different locations where it's dealing with health, you want the place that is actually subtracting health. That's where we want to start, okay? Let's go ahead and turn the debugger off, and this is where we're going to start. Right off the bat, this I don't know why this, there we go. Right off the bat, I would like to go ahead and put a break and trace on this, just to have that information. So when she takes damage, it'll give us our break information. So let's go ahead and hit her. We threw a kick. Very good. Okay, we can expand all that. We can see that there's only one call it came from, I believe. Yeah. So one call it came from. So we don't really need to go back to it at the moment. What we're doing is we're going through here to see if we can find areas to where we stand away from her, and we're just going to be throwing some hits, kicks, things like that. And what we want to do is we want to put break points. We're looking for tests and compares, and we want to put break points on them. And every time we hit, even when we're away from her, we want it to break. We want to find that compare area where it's comparing if we have actually hit her collision field. It's telling the computer that, okay, he's now swung, he's now hitting. Did he touch the collision field, the enemy collision field? That's what we're trying to look for. It is a trial and error process. There's nothing easy about it. So the first thing to do is find usually where it automatically breaks when you do nothing. Then you want to go before that. So I go back to the previous call. Let's put a breakpoint on it and see what happens. And as you can see, the game's froze. We have not made a hit or anything like that. So what I like to do is go back to this other function and work in that area to where it only breaks when we throw a punch. So mash F5, F9 to rerun the game. So we'll go back to this function here. Now, like I say, this is the brute force method, and you're looking for flag type values, and basically it's a good idea to come all the way to the beginning of the function. So select current function, come all the way up here to the beginning, put a breakpoint on it. It does not break, and we know that the area before that called it does break when we put one on here. So we know that our compare that we're looking for is down below this one, and that's what we do. We just go start hitting all that you see, the tests and compares, all these tests. you're going to just put breakpoint, 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 and just keep testing until you find where it breaks when we actually throw a punch. Now, you might find lots of areas where it does that. I don't know. But just to save you the trial and error process, and this could take minutes, it could take hours, it could take days, and that's really all there's really no way around it that I can see, especially when you're just learning. But you want to look for things like this, like byte values, or where it's testing a flag like this, like the lower part of EAX right here, EAL, and put them on there. And all you're doing is putting a breakpoint on it, go throw a punch, it does not break, move on. That's what you're doing. And it could take you a while. And basically what you're going to be looking for is you're going to be looking for lots of different jumps in succession as well. So these areas you want to put breakpoints on, these areas. But I want to go to where I think I know where it's at, because I've already done it, because I don't want to waste your time. And that's what I did. I just kept hitting every single one of these tests. I hit that one, I hit them all. And I just kept going down the list. I hit that one until you find it. And I believe it's right in here. So when I got in this section here, here's a bunch of things going on with the FPU stack, as you can see right here. And that's a good areas to look for also. And I started here, making sure that it had some type of condition. But when I got to here, I noticed here that it was comparing a flag test, the lower part of EAX with the 1 flag. Usually that's what I look for, 01s, things like that. But it could be anything. You really don't know. It could be comparing 2 different registers, so that don't really go by that. But when I got to here, I noticed when I put the breakpoint on it, let's go ahead and mash F5, and then when we now watch what happens when we hit this time. You see how it breaks? That's what you look for. You'll be putting and you'll find lots of errors that may do that, and I'm just trying to save a little time here is all. And when it does that, you know you want to try its conditional jump. So mash F9 to run it again, and here's its conditional jump. Jump if equal. The first thing you want to try is replace code that does nothing, which knocks it out. Throw some punches, and you see nothing's going on here. So restore it back, and now what we want to do is do it the other way. Make it jump all the time. Instead of making it run, we just want it to always jump over. So try it both ways, because you never know. That's why it could take a while. This is a brute force method. So now when we punch, take a look. So basically what it's doing here, if you saw, is testing our hit flag. It's testing a flag value with another value in EAX, the lower part of it anyway. And what it's doing is comparing our hit to whether we touched her collision. If we did touch her collision, it's going to jump and continue on to our routing opcode. If it did not touch her collision, it's going to run this, and it's going to meet these conditions or hit this one and jump over or off our routing opcode, so it doesn't write to it. So this is the location. So that's the kind of things you're looking for, is you know that one condition is going to make it go to our routing opcode, the other way will make it jump over or just totally bypass the routing opcode. That's what we're doing, is we're steering the game to the routing opcode every time. So when you're back tracing, that's what you're looking for. So keep that in mind. Now, I just kind of went through that quickly, just the brute force method of testing every test and compare in that particular function to where it doesn't break automatically. It only breaks when we throw a hit. Okay, now I've got a new game up. First off, let me apologize right off the bat. For some reason, this new particular game causes static on the microphone. I do not know why. I can't seem to get it to stop, and I'm quite frankly tired of dealing with it. So if you can understand me, then we're still good, okay? So I'm sorry about the static inconvenience. There's just nothing I can really do about it. I don't know if it's the bloom and everything going on in the game or what it is, but it's just causing a bunch of interference into the microphone. So I'm terribly sorry about that. But basically we're going to do the same thing in this particular game. It's called Fighting X Slayer. We are in the training mode. So what we want to do is find the enemy health and find the writing opcode. I've already done that, so I'm not going through that step. Remember, this lesson is for intermediate to advanced. So you should know how, at this point in time, to know how to find health and find the writing opcode. If you do not, please go to past lessons on this channel. Anywhere that you see me finding health or anything of that nature, those are the ones you want to take a look at. So I'm just going to go directly to that address. So we're going to go to address, and it takes us to the writing opcode right here. So we know this is what's writing to it, and it is a shared opcode, but we don't need to worry about that right now. So we're just going to go ahead and start from this point by backing up, and everything we're going to do, we're just going to throw punches away from the enemy. So what we're doing again is looking for that compare that's comparing our hit to whether we're touching the collision field, and we're always going to make it to come to this writing opcode location. That's what we need to do. So the first thing we want to do is narrow our search. We do that firstly by, let's go ahead and get some break information. This will bring up our tracer debugger, and we want to get our call structure. We may have to go back in calls. So let's go ahead and do that and hit her. And we get a lot of tracing information. There we go. Also, when you do stuff like this and it doesn't come back on, just come over here and manually mash run, or you can hit F9 to run the game. Sometimes it does that when you do a break and trace. So let's go ahead and expand all. And now all we need to do right now is just narrow our search. We want to find the location that only breaks when we throw a punch. If it breaks right away, then we're in the wrong location, or if it don't break at all, we're in the wrong location. So we need to keep that in mind. So the first thing I want to do is come to this writing opcode and memory view, which we were already there. And the first thing I like to do is go ahead and select the current function. It brings us to the top of it right here, and I'm going to put a breakpoint on it. And we see that it doesn't break right away. And does it break when we throw a punch? Nope, it does not. So we need to go further back. So let's take the breakpoint back off by mashing F5, and we'll go up to the next call that called this function. And we see this is the call that called it. Let's go ahead and put a break on that. We'll just keep doing the same thing, and it's trial and error like this. We're either looking for it to break when we do nothing or break when we throw a punch. If it breaks when we do nothing, then we need to start going forward. If it doesn't break at all, then we need to keep going backwards. So let's now select this current function. And this is the top of it, and we're going to place a breakpoint on it. We see the game is still running. Again, I'm sorry about the static. And let's throw a punch, and it does not break, so we need to keep going further back. And you really want to pay attention to these addresses, these module addresses of where we're at, where it's calling from, and things like that, because that's going to come in very important in a minute here. So we're going to go to this opcode right here. Here is the call that called that previous function. Put a breakpoint on it. And it does not break, so we know we need to keep going backwards. Now we're going to select the current function, and it brings us up to this byte, move a byte, which is, here's where we want to start paying attention, and I'm going to show you why. Let's go ahead and put a break on it. And when we punch, it does nothing. So we know we need to go further back. I'm going to show you something here. We need to go down to the next call structure. But when we get there, you're going to notice a little problem. Here's the next one right here. We assume that the call above it is the one that called this function we were just at, this function here. But if you take a look at the address that it is calling, it's calling the module and the offset 9880. Well, let's go back to where we just came from, which was right here, and we select the current function, and it brought us to the top of that function. But we see it was calling the module plus 9880, but this is 9F81. So it did not call this current function right here. So where did it call? Well, let's go back to it, and we're going to follow it. And what we're going to see when we follow this call, it's calling the function that is directly above this function. So let's follow it, and we now see that we are at the 9880, which is above that 9F. We scroll down to it all the way to the end of the function, which is a long way down. Sorry about that. These are the kind of things you have to pay attention to. You really need to understand what's calling, where it's calling, why is it calling that location, why did it not call this location. Here it is, the 9F81. You can see the return right above it, so it called this previous function. So how did it come here? Well, that's what we need to find out. So we're going to go back to the beginning of that call function right here and follow it. We're at the start of it, and if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see, boom, it's testing EAX jump if equal to 9F81. That 9F81, if we follow it, is that function. There's that byte, 9F81. So that's where it's actually jumping to when we hit the enemy. So when we go back up, let's go ahead and go to this function, select current function. Oops, sorry, hang on. Let's go above it just a little bit. There we go. Select current function. Now we're back at the top. There's a problem with that. Let's go down to it. And it really takes some real looking around to understand this. It's jumping when it tests EAX. So the first thing I did was put a breakpoint on that test EAX, and then I just threw a punch. So it doesn't break unless we actually hit her. Okay? So that's not what we need. We need it to break when we punch the air. So what the problem is, let's go ahead and run the program again. It's when we go up and we're really paying attention, we'll see at the beginning of the function, it doesn't even run this function. Here's where it starts. It's calling a particular program, then it's going to come back here and run on down all this, and then it tests ECX, and we see it's jumping, if not greater, to 9F76, which is real close to our function, which is 9F81. So if it meets that condition, it's not even running this upper function. It's just going to the return and just returning up the call structure. It's not going to the writing opcode. We do need it to come here to go to the writing opcode. So we know we need to take care of that somehow. Okay? So we need to go back up. And let's do that. Is everybody following this? Is that you understand what's going on? This right here, when it gets to this test, it's jumping over this entire function and just hitting a return. So it's never jumping to the function that goes to our writing opcode, which is right here. It jumps to the location that continues down this call structure. But if it hits this call, or I'm sorry, this particular test, and it passes jump if not greater, it's going to just jump over the function and just return back up the call structure. We need it to continue to go down the call structure to our writing opcode. So we need to see what EAX is holding here to make it jump. So we're going to put a breakpoint on it, and we see right off the bat it's holding a 0. So we know right now it's not going to our writing opcode because nothing's happening, right? So now we know it is always jumping, no matter what, until we actually go over there and hit her. So we know here that when we hit her, ECX is going to be something else. So let's go ahead and run it again. So we can also just pause the game via cheat engine, which I just did with my hotkey. We're going to put a break on here. And we're going to do a conditional break. So what I'm going to do is set and change condition. Come over here to easy. It has to be in capital letters. ECX. We want it to break when it is not equal to 0. Does that make sense? Sorry about that. I need to turn that off. They're chatting on there and that's going to get annoying. Alright. That little tilde right there, that means not equal. Not equal to 0. So any other number other than 0. So let's go ahead and press OK. We're going to come back here and I'm going to hit my hotkey and the game's running again. It's not broke yet, and it will only break when we hit her. Boom. Right here. So now we got a conditional break. Now we want to see what EAX is holding, which RCX is the 64-bit version of ECX. Just holds more bytes. And we see it's a 1. So we know that now it will continue coming on down here and go to our writing opcode because it needs to write because she's about to take damage. So we know we need to see what is putting that 1 in RCX. And this is why this is a more advanced lesson, a more intermediate and advanced lesson. We're just following everything back, trying to understand what's making it go to the writing opcode. So what we need to do is we go on back, we look, we see this is moving a value into RCX. So it's possible this is what's writing that 0 or 1 in there. So let's take a look. We see two different values, both 0. Here's where we need to pay attention. We're going to come over here, we're just going to hit air. Does anything change? And we need to pay attention because it's writing really fast. Take a look at the count, how fast it's writing. So if 1 changes to a 1, we need to figure out which one is changing to a 1 and back to a 0. And take a look. You see that bottom one's changing to a 1 real quickly? So it is that bottom one that is in control of us when it recognizes that her collision is being hit. So let's bring that down. Alright, so now let's see what's putting that 1 in there to write to RCX. And I'm just going to find out what's writing to it. We know this is writing to it. Let's hit that, or hit her, and we see an increase right here, only when she's hit. So let's go over to that increase. And we take a look here. Now we already know that increase is only going to be hit when we hit her collision field. So what I want to do is I'm going to put a break on it. And we see it does not do anything until we actually hit her. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow that 1. Because we know that this has to hit here to make it continue on to our writing opcode. So what we're going to do is see where it's going to put, or where it's actually maybe comparing to our hit versus her collision. So let's go ahead and hit her and get it to break. Alright, it broke, and it's broke right here. So let's go ahead and remove the breakpoint, and we're just going to step with the code using F7. Let's move my pointer out of the way. So we come over here and we see a bunch of tests right here, and we see that this is just coming. This is just basically, this is what's calling it here. It's increasing. So we know that possibly our compare for our collision is going to be somewhere in here. So we want to look at these, and we're stepping through the code. And this is what we do, is we go through every single one of these, and we're going to test these right here and see if we can find a place where it may be breaking. And we see it broke right away. We can't use that. I'm sorry. We need to run the game again. Let's try it again. We need to run the game again. So now let's try it. I'm sorry, I was stepping through the code. So now we got to put breakpoints everywhere. We need to see if we can locate where it's comparing. And if you see, there's a spot. And you're going to find several of these. And first thing we need to do is basically what we did in the other. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of these. Okay? So what we do first of all is we replace with a code that does nothing. And we start throwing some hits, nothing happens. And we do the reverse by making it says jump if not equal. We need to remember that and make it jump. And you may crash your game some, which it does nothing. And we just return it back to the way it was, and we go try some more. And like I say, this is the tedious part, and you want to test these different areas just like that. Okay, and still stepping through code and trying and just putting breakpoints on any type test and everything that we get to. That's what we're doing. I'm still doing it. And all I've been doing is just going straight down, and it's just trial and error, because we did find a spot where it's breaking when we hit, and that's what we look for, and those are the ones we got to test. So here's another one. And we got to try it both ways. So I'm going to take the breakpoint off, and we're going to replace with a code that does nothing first. Let's take a look, and we're going to throw some hits and take a look. We found it finally. And it took me a long time, and Avistus, you know, with his help, I mean, he found it right away. So, but you know, he's really good at this. But when you start finding those errors that is breaking, when you throw a punch in the air, that's where you need to start brute forcing it, okay? Now, also know that, and this video's already gone on a lot longer than I wanted it to, so we will continue on with this. We'll take it steps further to where our enemies cannot do it to us. Also, if you notice that when we jump in the air, it's not working. Well, it does here, but you can juggle. There's certain things that's not working when you're in a certain stance or something like that. So there's other things that you need to do. And we'll take a look at those also. But the next lesson that comes out probably next week, we are going to find out how to separate out our enemy versus our hero, to where our enemy cannot do that to us, but we can stand anywhere on the screen and still inflict damage. But that's the base root of what we're doing here. Basically, what I wanted you to get out of this lesson is more in-depth back tracing, to pay attention to where these calls are actually calling from your previous function and things like that. Learn what's going on in the function, what's making it go to that function. And basically, you need to understand that we're trying to get these things to go to the writing opcode. Somewhere in there, it's separating, it's comparing out the collision being hit versus not being hit. One condition being met going to the writing opcode, one condition not being met where it's not going into the writing opcode. You feel what I'm saying here? So we're getting it to where it's always going to the writing opcode no matter what. That's basically what it boils down to. So, you know, practice your tracing skills, get to the locations. When it does break, when you throw a punch and you're nowhere near your enemy, then those are the areas you want to start trying. You want to try every call and test. Make sure you knock out the conditional jump, and also do it the other way to make it always jump. You want to try both of them, okay? So keep that in mind. And just quickly, I'm going to go ahead and thank my partners. These guys keep Cheat the Game running, and it is a Partner Appreciation Month. You guys get this video 3 days early, completely ad-free. I really appreciate all your support. If it wasn't for you, I would have to fold up shop a long time ago. I really appreciate everybody's patience with me while I've been moving into the new apartment. Plus, you know, I have a job where I just work ungodly hours. I work almost 12 hours a day, and it's just been really tough on me. But you guys have stuck by me, stuck right by my side, and you've always been there. And man, I just really appreciate you guys. Thank you all so much. And we too would like you to come join us. You too can get free access, early access to these videos, and completely ad-free. You can click the join button, in which that will also, you'll get all partner perks as well. And I will put your name up here. And also come join us over at our Facebook and our Discord channel, as well as our website. All the links will be down in the description. Thank you so much for bearing with me during this tutorial. It's been a long one. It is a difficult one. It's very hard to explain, especially a trial and error process. You just want to get in you're just narrowing your search, getting to the location to where it starts breaking when you hit, and then that's those sections you want to try. You know, just going knocking different things and trying to jump over things. You want to test all your tests and your calls, those conditional jumps, in that area that it starts breaking when you just punch the air. So we narrow the search, then that's where we test. So that's basically what we did here. So I'm sorry if it got confusing. We are going to do more of this in the future with different games as well, just so you can see that it's basically the same process, and you kind of notice the same type flow of where you're finding these things. So some are difficult, some are easy, and I want to thank Abystus one more time again. Thank you so much, pal. I really learned a lot. You have been teaching me a lot, and you are a true asset to me, and I really do appreciate it, pal. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut on out of here. I will come back at you next week where we will continue on with this, and we will go ahead and learn how to separate our enemies versus ourselves, and any other kind of cleanup we need to do. But you guys take care, keep on hacking, most importantly, please enjoy yourself. That's really what it's all about. You cheat the game, fellas, because believe me, it doesn't mind cheating you. You all take care, buddy.